Okay, autumn is here, cooler weather. Some of you may know that on Thursday, April the 20th, which is next week, there will be a total solar eclipse that will be visible from a tiny portion of Western Australia, Timor-Leste, and West Papua. I believe a lot of people are going to Exmouth in Western Australia, which is the one location in Australia that you'll be able to view the eclipse from. And we've just come back from up that way. We were basically at Shark Bay, and I thought it might be worth doing a video for any people who haven't been up there before. People coming from interstate who are not familiar with the area, just to give you a little fill-in on like what it's like, what to expect from the area itself, because yeah, there are things I think that you need to know. Okay, the eclipse itself is, I'm just going to read from my notes here so I won't be gazing into the camera. Eclipse itself is April the 20th, Thursday, next Thursday, and goes from about 10:05 to 1:05 in the afternoon, Australia, Western Standard Time. Totality is 58 seconds, and it peaks at about 11:29 a.m. Total duration of the eclipse is expected to be 2 hours and 58 seconds. The path of totality, if you have a look at your local friendly map provider, the path of totality crosses the Northwest Cape and Barrow Island, and they're the only two locations that you'll be able to view the totality from. Fortunately, the town of Exmouth is in the path of totality, which I believe extends from a bit north of the town of Exmouth down south to about the airport at Lyndon. It sort of tickles my fancy that on the southern end of the path of totality, there just happens to be a dedicated solar observatory. Viewing locations are sort of going to be limited because the area is remote. The road up to Exmouth, the Minilya Exmouth Road, there's just basically that single road there and a couple of minor roads off it, plus some tracks that essentially just lead into the bush. So I expect that the town will be packed. The road north out of the town to the edge of the zone of totality up towards Bundagee will be packed, and the road south of town down towards Learmonth will be packed. Now, the area itself is dry savanna. I'll talk about that and like what to expect in more detail in a tick. But it's dry savanna. Don't expect houses, suburbs, or anything. There's the airport and Exmouth itself, which is just a town of about 5,000 people, so not much. The town itself has a couple of supermarkets, a hardware store, a couple of tackle shops. It's basically a resort sort of thing for the Ningaloo Reef. So yeah, don't expect a big place when you get there. I'll put a couple of links down below. Maybe I should say this at the end. Okay, what else have we got? What have we got here? Hey, I just dashed off some notes to give. That's not it. Sorry for the confusion. Will I cut this out? Okay. Let's get into the gory details here. So, there are only two ways to get to Exmouth. Really, is travel by road and air travel. If you haven't already booked flights, you're very unlikely to get a flight now. So your only option will be travel by road. The trip is about 1,250 kilometres, so it's not a short trip. There's a couple of choices at the southern part of the trip on how you can go, but the northern part of the trip there is basically only one way to get to Exmouth. Takes about 15 hours of time to drive there, and it's very monotonous and it is very tiring. So if you are planning to just have a quick dash up there, just drive up there in a day, for safety reasons I recommend it against it. A lot of people well, there are a lot of crashes on the roads in Western Australia caused by people not being familiar with the distances and the monotony of the drives, and they basically get what we call like road hypnosis. Their attention just fades away and they drive off perfectly straight roads, or fail to negotiate sort of gentle bends at the end of a 20-kilometre long straight, and the drive up to Exmouth is not scenic and exciting. Okay, choice of routes. From Perth to Geraldton, which is, we'll call the sort of like bottom third, you have Indian Ocean Drive, which is quite scenic. There's a few towns. The biggest one is Jurien Bay, which is about 3,000 people, I think. But it can be very busy, and it has a reputation just recently of being quite dangerous due to irresponsible and impatient drivers. Next choice is the Brand Highway, which can be dull. There's 2 small towns and 2 roadhouses. There's quite a lot of trucks on the Brand Highway, but they're, depending on where you catch them, they're not all that hard to pass. You just, again, have to be patient. There's quite a lot of overtaking lanes on the Brand Highway. And your third choice, well, Indian Ocean Drive and the Brand Highway, it's about the same distance to Geraldton along those. Your third option is the Midlands Road. It's about 80 kilometres longer. There's more small towns and less traffic, but it's probably not your best choice. It is distinctly longer. If you're taking a couple of days to get up there, then maybe that's worth a look. From Geraldton to the Minilya Roadhouse, your only choice is the Northwest Coastal Highway. From Geraldton you go about 70 kilometres, and the next town is Northampton, and that's quite small, sort of 800 people or so maybe there. There's a supermarket there. You can get fuel there. On the map you'll see that there's a couple of small towns north of that, Agina and Binu. They're nothing. I think one of them, Agina, has a little store and fuel station there that basically opens when the guy feels like it. Once you get north of the Murchison River, there's 3 roadhouses, and that's it. There's Billabong, Overlander and Wurramill. They're not towns, right? They're just fuel and sort of like on the road food stops. The food is basically, you can get takeaway or a sit down meal, and that's about it. Speaking of meals, if you have specific dietary requirements, you require gluten-free food or vegan or whatever, you're on your own basically. Once you get to Exmouth, there's a couple of good restaurants and everything there that'll probably be packed if you can even get into town. But on the way up, just do not expect roadhouses to cater for specialty food requirements. There's some accommodation at the Billabong, but Overlander and Wooramel I don't know. It's probably all booked out. And the last stretch is from Minilya Roadhouse, which is north of Carnarvon. It's 160 or something kilometres north of Carnarvon. It's where you turn off the Northwest Coastal Highway to go out to Exmouth. There's Coral Bay, which is like a little place where you can get fuel, and there's a small supermarket there. Again, all the accommodation there is probably booked out. And Minilya is basically a roadhouse that does have accommodation, but it's probably all booked out. There's a rest stop there. It's on the banks of the Minilya River, and there's a rest stop on one side of the river, and the roadhouse is on the other. Plenty of places to get fuel on the way up, but they can be 200 kilometres or more apart. Don't push your luck with your fuel. Make sure that you've got plenty of fuel. And also on the way, don't think that if you ran out of fuel, you could just drop into a farmhouse or something like that. There aren't any. Okay, it's sheep and cattle station country. Like in American terms, it's ranch country. There are no houses or anything much near the road. Just make sure you've got fuel, make sure you've got water. Keep water in the car all the time in case you have a breakdown, because it's much warmer and drier up there than it is in Perth. And also, if you're going to be parking out on the side of the road on the day of the eclipse, make sure you have water. You will need about 3 or 4 litres per person, because it can be, in autumn up there, it can be warm to hot and dry. I haven't checked what the weather is going to be yet, but you have been warned. Make sure you have water. Yep. Okay. Driving tips. Take it easy. Speed limit is 110 kilometres an hour in the open roads in WA. If you speed, you are very likely to be caught. There will be the whole route up there will be patrolled by the police, often in unmarked cars. If they catch you speeding, they will be unamused and issue you with an invitation to part with money. And the speeding fines in Western Australia are not trivial. For exceeding the speed limit up to like 9 kilometres an hour over the speed limit, the fine for that is 100 Australian dollars. And also, do not drive under the influence of anything, because they are likely to test for that as well. They don't need like roadside booze buses. All the police cars will have testing kits in them, and and plus it's a bad idea if you want to arrive essentially alive. The secret to the big distances is stick to the speed limit, don't drive tired, have brakes, like if the driver gets tired, have a break for 5 or 10 minutes. Do not hang around at places like the roadhouses and that for an hour or 2 hours, because especially if you are attempting the drive in one hit, you will leave in the dark and you'll get there in the dark. And I'll talk about driving in the dark in a minute, because that's not a good idea. Okay, so the road can be dull. The road north of the Billabong Roadhouse is long, straight and featureless, but at least it's easy to pass the trucks. By the way, the reason why there's so many trucks is all the freight to all the towns and everything is shipped by road. There is no rail transport up there. The Minilya Exmouth Road is being developed. The southern part can be a bit narrow and bumpy, but the northern part is very nice. And speaking of trucks, it's what we call grey nomad season here, which means all the retirees with their caravans are on the road heading north, and quite a lot of them, well, they legally speed limited to 100 kilometres an hour, but an awful lot of them sit on 80 kilometres an hour and expect several caravans in a little convoy. Oh, and there are, especially once you leave Geraldton, there are road trains here. So that can be a semi-trailer truck with 1 or 2 trailers, and I think the total length can be 70 metres. So if you're gonna pass, leave yourself plenty of room to pass. Okay, said that. Okay, weather, which has become sort of important in the last couple of days. The weather in Perth is no indication of the weather in Exmouth. Exmouth is kilometres north of Perth and is in a completely different climatic zone to Perth. The weather there at this time of the year is distinctly warmer and drier. There is a little bit of a risk of rain, so be prepared for quite a warm, like in the high 20s, low 30s day. Again, I haven't checked the weather report yet for Exmouth. But one thing that will impact the driving is that we've just had quite a severe cyclone through. It is nowhere near Exmouth, it's headed off inland, but there's a risk of rain in the river catchments for that area. That's sort of doesn't tend to be a problem, except once you turn off on the Minilya Exmouth Road, about 20 kilometres down there, there's a river crossing of the Lyndon River, and it's not a bridge, it's basically a ford through the river bed. It's sealed, it's quite good, but there may be water across it. If the water is quite high, then there'll be a detour. You'll have to continue along the Northwest Coastal Highway, down Burkett Road, back to the Exmouth Minilya Road, and that will add an hour and a half to the trip. If there is water across the road and you're not driving four-wheel drive, make sure you check the depth markers carefully before you drive across. I've only been up there once when there was water across the road, and that was in sort of like a medium SUV, and the water was sort of up to the middle of the wheels, you know, like 30 centimetres deep, so it was not really any problem. But yeah, just be aware that could happen. I'll put a link in the description to the best website to check for road conditions. What else have we got here? Speeding, police, drink driving, don't drive tired. Oh, try not to drive at night. There's kangaroo, sheep, goats and cattle, all to be expected on the road. Kangaroos are a risk mainly at dusk and dawn, but virtually as soon as you leave the suburbs of Perth or Geraldton, they are a risk. So yeah, you don't think you have to be a long way out in the bush to come across kangaroos. And if you've never seen a kangaroo in person, they might not seem all that big, but if you hit a kangaroo at speed, it will trash your car. You will be going no further. If you hit a cow or a bull at speed, further up, it will trash your car and very likely to trash you. There is a project on at the moment to fence the roads further north, but it's not complete, and so an awful lot of the roads, again, north of Geraldton, north of the Billabong, are unfenced. So yeah, wildlife and stock are issues. Accommodation, if you haven't booked anything already, forget it, especially in Exmouth. Okay, shopping and towns. You can get basic supplies in the bigger towns. Exmouth has 2 supermarkets, a hardware store, as I mentioned before, auto parts, a basic auto parts place, but remember, it's a town of 5,000 people. It's not going to be sort of like luxury shopping there. Even in Carnarvon and Geraldton, anything specialty is limited. I mean, Geraldton, for example, is 40,000 people. Carnarvon is 7,000. I've got in my notes here, Exmouth is only 3,000 and Jurien is 2,000. Stand corrected. By comparison, Perth's about 2 million people. So if you need anything like camera or drone batteries, stuff like that, you get them in Perth if you can get them in Perth, because you will not get them outside of Perth. Geraldton and Carnarvon, you will be able to get SD cards and things like that, but not a lot else. Oh, there's a half decent pharmacy in Exmouth as well, and a small hospital. Right, what else have we got? Oh, phone coverage. It's shit. Well, it's a long distance in open country, and they are working on getting phone coverage along the main roads like the Northwest Coastal Highway and the Minilya Exmouth Road. There are phone towers popping up along there all the time. As I said, we were just up to Shark Bay, and there's a new tower between Billabong and Overland that I haven't seen before. If you look at the Telstra, if you look at the coverage maps on the internet, I think the Telstra coverage map is a bit of an exaggeration. Shows good coverage from Learmonth to Exmouth, which is basically the zone of totality, but when I was there last year, it was actually patchy, and expect patchy coverage all the way up. As for what is the best, if you're buying a SIM card or something like that, the best coverage is Telstra. They have the best coverage in remote areas. Optus seems not to be bad, and Vodafone tends not to have anything outside of the major towns, and I don't think it has any coverage in Exmouth at all. So yeah, choose your phone provider carefully and do not depend on your mobile phone. Dogs, don't take your dog. If you do not let it off the leash if you're within 100 kilometres of Exmouth. There's a big problem up there with wild dogs / dingoes, and a lot of the stations and Department of Conservation lay poison baits. If your dog gets hold of one of those, it will very probably die quite quickly. There was an incident about 40 kilometres south of Exmouth last year where people let their dog out of the car for a run. It picked up a poison bait. I don't even think it ate it. I think it just mouthed the bait and died very quickly. So don't. which brings me to another issue, especially if you're coming from overseas. There is a big problem in and around Exmouth with wild dogs and dingoes. You will see them in town. Or on the beaches and that around the edge of town. Down on the Lyndon Road through the zone of totality, you will very likely see them down there. So if you see what looks to be a stray dog or a feral dog, don't try and approach it, don't try and pat it, and most important of all, do not feed them. Do not do in any way the nice doggy thing. These are wild animals. If you have a dog with you, they're very likely to attack it. If you give them food and they feel like getting some more, they could just take it. They are dangerous animals. Feeding them makes the problem worse because it makes them associate food with people, and they harass people to get food and put the people in danger. So if you like dogs and you want the dingoes and or wild dogs to have a long life, just don't interact with them. Okay, because if they harass people, they will get shot or poisoned. Just leave them alone. Okay, manners. Okay, don't park in people's, like on station access roads and things like that. Don't block them. Stations work 7 days a week, and staff need access in case there's any problems with windmills and that. There are roads that just look like little roads going off to the side, maybe with a gate or something like that. Don't park across the gates. Don't block the blasted roads. Some of the roads up there are off to military installations, and you will be moved along quite smartly if you block those. There's also sort of a lifestyle suburb to the south of the town, and it can be a little bit hard to work out sort of which are what driveways and access to the houses. Just if you see something that looks like a driveway and you want to park there, do not block it off. Okay. Second thing is, it's a dry, arid area. Do not light fires. If you smoke, don't drop cigarette butts. A fire up there with all those people there would be a disaster. There's limited means to deal with it. There is a volunteer bushfire brigade in town, but with all the people parked along the road, their access would be very, very limited. And also, it's especially on the western side of the peninsula, it is a World Heritage area. We do not want a fire in there. So, yeah. Rubbish. Okay, a bit of a continuity failure there due to peculiarities of Sony cameras, where I don't know why it just sort of decides to stop doing stuff after a while. Where was I? What was I ranting about? Rubbish. Yep, it's a pristine area up there. Borders a World Heritage area, so please do not leave any rubbish, not in town, not along the road, not anywhere. We do not want to have to do like a Woodstock style clean up afterwards. The other thing too is the area is a big area for turtles, and the turtles, sea turtles, breed there. So do not leave plastic bags, because if they blow around and get into the water, and a lot of the Minilya Road through the zone of totality is very close to the Exmouth Gulf. if the plastic bags get in the water, they look like jellyfish. The turtles try to eat them and they die. Please don't. You said don't leave plastic bags, don't leave any rubbish at all. I'll be up there in August and out on the kayak, and I will check on you, okay? I will check. I do not want to see rubbish and stuff floating around in the water. Okay, have I forgotten things? Very, very probably. In summary, it's a long way. It's 1,250 kilometres. Do not speed. Do not drive under the influence of anything. Be patient because it's a busy road, and drive to get there in one piece. Don't kill or injure yourself or anybody else. That would be bad. Enjoy yourself up there in quite a different and unique part of the world. If you're going to be out all day, make sure you have water with you, because dehydration is a very big problem. Enjoy. I hope it turns out to be a good day. I have this paranoid thing that because Exmouth is the area, one of the three areas that the zone of totality crosses, and that's the area most likely to have clear weather, because Timor and West Papua are in the tropics and could be very cloudy. I think it could be, I sort of cynically think it could be the reverse, where Exmouth could cloud over and they get the clear weather. I certainly hope not. Enjoy. I said I'll be up that way, but I'm going up on a ship to avoid the chaos. When I come back, I will be, I've got other commitments, so I'll be making a video about the eclipse, but it probably won't be up for a month or 6 weeks. So yeah, once again, enjoy. Have a good time, keep safe, and I'll have another video out in a few weeks' time. Until then, see you later. Okay, bonus footage, bonus information. I did just check the weather report for Exmouth and Exmouth Gulf. Exmouth is clear next Thursday. Exmouth is expected to be 30 degrees C. Exmouth Gulf, which is basically down near Learmont, 33 degrees. Which is in the old antique numbers, it's about 90 degrees. I think 33 degrees is about 91 degrees Fahrenheit. And including a bit of bonus footage after this, if I can, which is a time-lapse I did a couple of years ago of condensing the entire trip from Exmouth to where I lived at the time in Perth, into a 3-minute video. So the distance you'll see at the end is a bit greater than Exmouth to Perth, because I'm travelling in that video from north of Exmouth, a little north of Exmouth, about 20 kilometres, to about 20 kilometres south of Perth. So I think it comes out about 1290. Enjoy.